Hey guys, welcome to your Unit 9, Lesson 6 notes on the quadratic formula. Congratulations, you have done it. By the end of the day, you'll be able to solve quadratic equations using the quadratic formula. Yeah. Congratulations, you've done it. You've gotten past the hard part. Earlier, we looked at different methods for solving quadratic equations. Remember that a quadratic equation is we have ax squared plus bx plus c, and you want to figure out what is x to make that equal to 0. Okay, so when you do that, we looked at 3 different ways to solve a quadratics. The first way is by graphing. And graphing is great when you need an approximate or you need an estimate to a solution. You can graph. For a review on how to solve quadratic equations by graphing, go ahead and check out Lesson 3. After graphing, we also looked at factoring. Factoring is the best way to go, honestly, but sometimes it's not really worth your time. So only do that if you can find the factors easily. For a review on factoring, check out all of last unit or Lesson 4. And then finally, we also looked at completing the square. Completing the square is like, it's a kind of factoring. It's when you can easily get squares going. You can only complete the square if your a term is 1, so if in front of your x squared you've got a 1, and all the other coefficients are kind of small. So completing the square is like an ultimate shortcut. Now I'm going to tell you these are methods you should use in these situations. Oh yeah, we did completing the square yesterday. So these are all good for those specific situations. Now here's the universal way to do it. This method is called the quadratic because it's used for solving quadratics. Okay, right, to find out what is x. And since this is a recipe to follow, this is a formula. Ta-da! And what this says is, hey, if you have a quadratic that's, ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, you want to find out what is x going to be to make that true? I will tell you. And I will tell you with a song. And it goes like this. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And that's it. Remember what a root is. A root is what it is the x value of your function. If you have, your parabola like that, the root is going to be the x value that makes it equal to, that makes the y equal to 0. So it's where it crosses the x-axis right there. Those are the roots. Okay, and that happens when x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay, like that. So you bet your bottom dollar that I'm going to be singing that this whole time. So a is the guy in front of your x squared term. B is the guy in front of your x term. And then c is your little constant at the end. Isn't that great? So that's what it is. Okay, write it every single time. Okay. Use the quadratic formula. Ready? X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay, sweet. Well, what is a? A is our first term. Oh, in this case, a is 1. That's nice. B is our second term. So everywhere we have a b, we're going to put a negative 4. And c is our last guy. Everywhere we have a c, we're going to put a 3. So that means we have x equals negative 1, no, negative negative 4 plus or minus the square root of negative 4 squared minus 4 times a, which is 1, times c, which is 3. All over 2 times 1, ta-da. So just to check, everywhere we have a b, we put a negative 4. Everywhere we have a, we put a 1. And everywhere we have a c, a 3. Cool. And now you take it and you solve it. You need to simplify that. Oh, and shooties my goodies, guys, I did not give us nearly enough room to do this. My bad. That's okay. Let's simplify as much as we can in one step. Negative 4 is a positive 4. Negative 4 squared, oh, sorry, plus the square root of negative 4 squared is 16. Minus 4 times 1 times 3 is 12. So I can shorten that. All over 2 times 1 is 2. Okay, cool. And then that gives us 4 plus or minus the square root of 16 minus 2 is 4. I mean, minus 12 is 4. All over 2. Now we are out of room. So I'm going to move this guy here and shrink him up. And say, just kidding, we've been working up here this whole time. Ha ha ha! Okay, sweet. The square root of 4 is 2, so that's the same thing as 4 plus or minus 2 all over 2. Now, this plus or minus tells us, I need a new highlighter color. Oh well, this plus or minus, yeah, I do need a new highlighter color. What haven't I used yet? Purple. That we need to split this plus or minus guy into 2 guys. So that means either we have the plus on one side, we have the minus on the other side. So I'm going to plus, minus. See that? See how the plus got split into a plus or a minus? Those are our 2 solutions. Okay, so we get, did I not save this guy? I didn't. Come on. There it goes. Okay, sweet. So 4 plus 2 is 6, which is 3. 4 minus 2 is 2. Over 2 is 1. So x equals 3 or x equals 1. That's it. Now, guys, the quadratic formula is great because it always works. But it's unfortunate because it takes a lot of time. Look at all these steps. That took 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 steps to do. That's a lot of work. And if we looked at our original problem, what did our original problem say? Okay, we're trying to find what multiplies to 3 and adds to negative 4. Well, that would give us x minus 3, x minus 1 equals 0. And so that tells us, oh, x equals 3 and x equals 1. So factoring would have been much, much faster for this guy because he was really simple. However, it's not always that simple because look at this guy. This guy is hard to factor. So let's use the quadratic formula. Remember the quadratic formula says x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay, what is a here? A is negative 2. B is a positive 3. And C is a negative 5. So we get x equals negative b, which is 3, negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac. over 2a. Right? Did I do that right? AB plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. All right, sweet. Now let's simplify them. So x is equal to negative 3 plus or minus the square root of 9 minus 40 all over negative 4. Cool. So we get negative 3 plus or minus the square root of negative 31 all over negative 4. Guys, you can't take a square root of a negative number. That's not allowed. So we say this has no solution. So that was fun. That was quick. Good job. All right, well, when are we going to use this in real life? Well, let's say you want to find the hang time of a ball. Hang time is the total amount of time a ball stays in the air. Now let's say we've got our pal Josh here. He's practicing safety, so he's got this super cool helmet on. Thanks, Josh. And he can kick a football with an upward velocity of 64 feet per second. This is not to scale. There. Football goes... How would you kick a football, Josh? You stand with one foot, the other foot went bang, and then you were holding it, but I don't know. Okay. So you kick the football, dee 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 dee, and it goes wee, like that. That was the best drawing I've ever done in my whole life, ever. Okay, upward velocity of 64 feet per second. That's where this comes in, right there. His foot meets the ball 2 feet off the ground. That's where this comes in right there. What is the hang time if the ball is not caught? So no one comes in and like catches it here. It goes wee, all the way to the ground. Oh. Sweetums. So what do we know? We know that the hang time is equal to, the height is negative 16 t squared plus 64t plus 2. So that tells us that any time t, the ball's height can be found here. So the height when t equals 0 is 2. And we want to find the height. We want to find what is t when h of t equals 0. So what we're going to do is we're going to say, oh, we want to find out when this expression right here is equal to 0. Oops, that's exactly what I wanted to do. This is equal to 0. So let's use a quadratic formula. t equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Oh, by the way, get your best listening ears on. Select that finger tool right there and then follow this link. It's amazing. It's my jam. Okay, anyway, so we got to figure out what's our, what are we dealing with here? Our A is negative 16. Our B is positive 64. Our C is 2. Plug that all in. X equals negative B plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Cool. We plug that all in. And that ends up being negative 64 plus or minus the square root of 4,224 all over negative 32. Cool. Now this plus or minus guy, remember, he means wheel. To split him up. So we need to split him into a positive and to a negative. Wow, that's That was not expecting. Positive and a negative. Now what do we get? We end up getting, okay, that means that t equals, actually I'll write this down here. T equals negative 0.031 or 4.031. Now why do we have twice? Why is there 2 times where the ball hits the ground? Well, we're going a little back in time and figuring out, oh, okay, here's the ball, but the ball started 2 feet off because Josh had to hold it to kick it, right? So having negative time doesn't make sense. So instead we have to go with 4.031. So that's our answer. So Josh's hang time, or I guess the hang time of the ball, is 4 seconds. Good job. Key idea of the day right here, quadratic formula. To find when your graph equals 0, what x is to make your graph 0, use the quadratic formula right here. Have a great time in your homework.